which is almost unprecedented.
Yeah. However, a bit of a dark shadow is looming over Mr. David Cameron, because there's been great concerns for his personal safety ever since he was bumped into by a jogger. And the Daily Mail here, major article that Mr. Cameron is now being forced to reinstall the police motorcycle outriders every time he travels in his big black limousine, because obviously somebody could jog into the limousine, presumably.
Yes. What's he scared of?
Well, I don't know. We did have a word with Mr. Cameron, and apparently he said he just can't believe that anyone would hate him. So we think that the Prime Minister's in heading towards deep psychosis at the moment, because he has believed that everybody in Britain loved him. Now somebody's bumped into him. He's going to have to spend hundreds of £1,000s a year on motorcycle outriders to protect him from joggers.
I'm sorry for him.
Yep, there we are. That's what you get if you vote Conservative. Well, banking and probes.
Yes, a currency probe. This is Royal Bank of Scotland, of course, which has set aside £400 million to cover what they're calling potential costs from the investigation into the manipulation of the foreign exchange markets. We've seen this, we've covered this sort of subject this week already, because obviously banks in Europe and also the United States are doing similar things. And this, in fact, follows Barclays' decision, and they're going to set aside £500 million. Of course, this is all about probes. It's all about, well, in fact, RBS stated, we know we still have a long list of conduct and litigation issues to deal with, and much, much more to do to restore our customers' trust in us.
Conduct and litigation issues.
Conduct and litigation issues, not criminal acts, not fraud, not corruption, but conduct and litigation issues. But of course, how are they dealing with this? Well, they're setting aside this money, and how are they paying for it? Well, they're not taking it out of their bonuses, of course. What they're doing is they're shutting down 100 branches. So in order to restore customers' trust in them, what they're going to do is inconvenience customers by making them walk further to the nearest branch. And Lloyd's doing exactly the same. They're closing 200 branches. So this clearly is a sort of an approach that the entire cartel is taking. And I think it's about time we saw, perhaps customer trust may be reinstated if we saw some of the bankers committing the fraud going to prison. Just as a suggestion, just to throw away.
Pretty unlikely, Mike, I think, actually. But this word probe is brilliant, isn't it? Because it's suddenly come into the press. We don't have police inquiries. We don't have police investigations. It's now a probe. No definition of what that actually means. It's just a sort of word you throw in. And if you're a banker, of course, it doesn't matter what you do.
Well, because these criminal acts just aren't really important.
No. But however, if you are a survivor of child abuse, then of course the law works in a completely different way. So we bring you a very short summary on the trial of abuse survivor Melanie Shaw. She appeared in court over 3 days this week, Monday through to Thursday. Here is a picture of the Nottingham Crown Court building. One of the things we can say is that when you get inside, there's a huge cafeteria area which is no longer used as a part of the Ministry of Justice cost-cutting exercise. Well, we did show this photograph, which was Melanie after the first day in court, where the CPS branded her as having a grudge against the woman who'd worked with social services when social services took Melanie's son. In the following part of the hearing and the next day, the evidence put forward by the CPS was challenged. The handwriting expert confirmed in court that she couldn't be certain beyond all reasonable doubt that the handwriting in the graffiti on the wall at the time of the fire incident was Melanie. She couldn't be certain. So that breached the beyond all reasonable doubt rule. And in the fingerprint evidence, the bag that was left at the criminal damage with paint contained Melanie's fingerprint, as she said it would. It was her bag, but 8 or 9 other people were identified, were there with fingerprints, but they were not identified by the police because the police had not investigated those other fingerprints. It appeared that her defence team put across a very strong case, that there wasn't an identity of the person setting the fire of the shed, nor the person carrying out the criminal damage. And other incidents of criminal damage had been reported in that particular area of the city over a period of months. So where did that go? Well, the final judgment was yesterday, the decision of the jury, and it was really utter astonishment of the... can we bring that on screen, Nick, please? Thank you. To the astonishment of the public present, Melanie Shaw was found guilty on both charges. That was arson, reckless and criminal damage. And she's now bailed for psychiatric reports before sentencing. Now, there were some remarkable things happened in the latter part of the hearing, and this is one of the key ones. After the summing up, Judge Pert is reported as saying to the jury, don't be thrown by the fact that Operation Daybreak is a conspiracy theory. Now, this is a remarkable statement because, of course, part of Melanie's defence was that strange things had been happening around her ever since she'd become a whistleblower for the abuse at Beechwood Children's Home, Nottingham, and that had resulted in Operation Daybreak. So a key part of Melanie's defence was that the moment she became a whistleblower, clearly there were going to be people with the grudges against her, but strange events were happening.
But that's a direction to the jury?
It would appear to be a direction to the jury, but I think that's supposed to be a criminal act, directing a jury. But if that isn't enough, it's also been reported to us by several members of the public that when Melanie was in the process of giving her own evidence, the judge said to the jury, don't be put off that Melanie is a bit strange. So we're really not sure what the judge was trying to do with these comments. We can have some discussion on that. But I think many people will be deeply concerned as to these alleged comments by the judge.
Yes.
Well, if we go in a little bit deeper, of course, we now have a senior judge saying that Operation Daybreak is just conspiracy theory. So we thought, let's have a little look again to see whether we'd got things wrong. Well, here's the Nottingham Post, and it says a huge investigation called Operation Daybreak is examining allegations of sexual or physical abuse against children in now closed homes.
So police investigations are conspiracy theories?
According to this judge, Mike, yeah. Well, the BBC even picked up on it, and here we are. They also say in 2010, Nottinghamshire Police launched Operation Daybreak, an investigation into allegations of abuse at Beechwood from the 1960s. And we can also go to Jordan's solicitors, where clearly on the front of their website, new probe into abuse at Nottingham homes. There's that famous word, the probe. Operation Daybreak, a large-scale police operation investigation concerning a number of claims relating to incidents of abuse at home. So presumably all these people are mistaken.
They must all be conspiracy theorists.
It would seem so, according to the judge. Well, we decided to go back and have a little look on Nottinghamshire Police website. Now, we may be mistaken, but when you try and do a search for Operation Daybreak on Nottinghamshire Police's own site, you don't find anything. We had thought there were some original news reports about Operation Daybreak. Apart from anything else, other victims were being encouraged to come forward to the police. But I did a search just before starting the programme, and it comes up with no results. Strange then that lead officer, Detective Inspector Yvonne Dales, is in charge of Operation Daybreak. And if you have a look at her own LinkedIn page, thank you for that. Here it is. We can clearly see that she says that she's got strategic lead for domestic abuse, dangerous persons, adults at risk, multi-agency safeguarding hub, interesting term, and is the senior investigating officer for Operation Daybreak. Well, presumably nobody's told her that that actually is a conspiracy theory. So we will leave it there. We remain very, very concerned for Melanie Shaw. because out of nowhere in the trial, a very adverse psychiatric report was produced. It was being bandied around about schizophrenia and other serious mental illnesses. Now, none of this had been revealed in any previous hearings, and Melanie has now effectively disappeared on bail. So this may be for her safety, but one thing is for certain, that she needs support within the community, both from her own GP and her previous mental health carers. So we haven't got any further information to report at the moment, but clearly some extremely strange events going on in court, and members of the public absolutely stunned that the jury returned the verdict they did after the defence put forward.
There's a comment there in the chat box that if the jury are not given the evidence, then they're going to come to the wrong judgment. But of course, that equally happens if the judge, and if the judge in this case has done so, if the judge undermines the evidence that is presented in the court.
Well, I'll use the word alleged. It is alleged that the judge gave the jury some form of written advice or guidance on presumably how to reach their verdict, but this of course was not shared with the court or any of the members of the public, so nobody is too sure what would have taken place there. However, I use the word shocked. Members of the public were utterly shocked when the verdict was returned. The other thing which was interesting is that when the public left the court, they were confronted by an extremely heavy police presence. Many members of the public described the police behaviour as threatening and intimidating. Some people commented on the scruffy nature of the police. Many of them, I think, were unshaven, aside from tattoos. And one police officer was prepared, however, to volunteer that they had been called by the judge. Did the judge know what the outcome of the jury was going to be?
Yeah, because he called them before the jury returned a verdict.
Well, this is what we need to establish. But nevertheless, when the public came out of that court hearing, they found the presence of Nottinghamshire Police in the vestibule area was absolutely intimidating. So there we have it. If you are an abuse victim, it's so far been demonstrated in Nottingham that far from sympathy, concern, care and the necessary support, that's clearly not forthcoming. What you can expect is a pretty vicious regime. Is that to close down the abuse, we wonder? Well, just a final little comment on Nottinghamshire Police. Of course, if you're a senior police officer, then traffic speed limits are a conspiracy theory. This young lady, senior police officer Helen Chamberlain, was driving at 79 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour limit, but basically she was only cautioned for that, presumably because she was a police officer. And where does it lead? Well, it leads to prisons, and we found it interesting that after our comments on the vile treatment of Melanie Shaw in HM Prison Peterborough under private control of the French company Sodexo, here we are now with statistics reporting a huge leap in the number of prisoners killing themselves in prison, deaths in prison, and the figure here, 235 prisoners died in the 12 months to the end of September 2014, a mere 19% increase on the previous year. So well done, Chris Grayling and David Cameron. As they're cutting the budgets, they're reducing probation, they're bringing in these vicious profit-making companies, and what have they achieved? More deaths in prison. But I suppose that saves money, doesn't it, really?
Indeed. Okay, Ed Miliband.
They're so similar, Mike, actually.
Well, they are, yes. Ed Miliband is promising